This isn't designed.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you're only looking at one lane going into the roundabout, but two lanes within the roundabout.
Can I just say something? We're all worried about the traffic circle, but the microeconomics of this town as a business owner, a homeowner, as an employee, and as a commercial building owner, if you guys worry about a roundabout, you're neglecting the idea of what business we could bring into this town, taking some more jobs, and raise property.
All right, you're talking to us. You're talking to us. Hey, okay, this is us.
He asked the question.
Hold on, I know.
Okay. so
Nick,
the other
please.
question is, all right,
Thank
so regardless of the roundabout, so you said there's one lane going in?
No. So there's actually 2 lanes coming in on Morris, 2 lanes coming in on Spring, and we have in the vicinity of the roundabout coming in from Morris from the green, we've opened up a 2nd lane within the right-of-way that exists. So it's actually 2 lanes coming in at all approaches. The Wilmot is going to be 1 way away from the roundabout, so you will not enter the roundabout from Wilmot. And at the roundabout, there are times where you have 2 lanes going around the circle, and times where you have 1 lane going around the circle. And the reason why that varies is so we could do that type of design where the inside becomes the outside.
Right, the other question is, you said about 1,000 employees or whatever, you said about 60% or so, I know that was already asked, about 60% would be going to 287, so you're talking about maybe 400 cars for those that drive. If you're saying 60% will be going to 287, that's 400 cars. So, 600 like that, 600 plus. Okay, so either way, the question is, are those cars going, which way are they going through town? There's many ways to get to 287, so the question is, will the neighborhoods see more congestion?
And I don't want to get into the semantics of every single number, but just going back to what you said, 1,000 cars, they all don't arrive the same hour, and they're not all driving. But we'll just, again, talk about where are people coming and going. Again, the vast majority, again, this is where we're getting 60% are going Morris Street east towards 287. So what they would do is they'd either come out the main center driveway at Morris, come around the roundabout and back out, or they come out the new signalized intersection where Spring Place is realigned, make the left turn and come down. The benefit that you have here is that it keeps people basically Spring, Morris, 287. That's the main flow of traffic for employment, is basically right in what you see on the screen heading towards 287.
Okay, and about how many parking spaces will be allowed?
There'll be, I believe, over 900. Over 900.
900 parking spaces.
Total spaces or for employees?
Total spaces, that includes retail and employee and visitor.
I mean, if you say there's 900 spaces and 1,000 cars, where do the people, everybody else park?
Sir, you're gonna, I need to keep some order here, I'm sorry. So we're raising our hands. Okay, I'm sorry. Sir.
If you're putting a new traffic light at the new Spring Street intersection, aren't you just moving the bottleneck back?
So the short answer is no. The reason why this works better than what you have down here is the volume that you're dealing with on Spring, and our driveway is much less than the volume you're dealing with in terms of metering Morris and Spring.
I'm talking about the cars coming down Spring.
Yeah, no, so this light actually be a fairly quick turnaround light because it really is only letting people out of the driveway. So it's going to be a light that operates pretty efficiently. The other benefit that we could have here, and there are ways that you could work with the signal software, is that you could have it so if cars start backing up towards the roundabout, it turns Spring Street green and pushes the cars back through. So there are mechanisms that you could do to this traffic light to make sure it works well with the roundabout. And again, just looking back at Westfield, there are traffic lights basically almost nearly this distance away from the roundabout in Westfield.
Pierce.
Your drone views and your animations look really great, but this is so typical. It's an ideal situation. It's not rush hour. The one thing I think you've all missed is the way people walk out in front of traffic in Morristown.
That's right.
This happens all the time. It happens when they've got the red on the light, they walk out in front of the moving traffic. They just do this. I don't think you're even accounting for that. I think you were discussing what I would call a zebra, which is the wide cross lines in the road where you have a light. It's very European. It works really great in Europe where people mind their manners and wait until they've got to cross. It doesn't work in
I
Morristown.
said we were gonna train the people.
Yeah, when the grasshopper closes, that's a lot of traffic coming down, pedestrian traffic coming down the street, walking willy-nilly where they want to.
Do you feel like?
I think we heard the comment.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Thank you. Just in the interest of full disclosure, do any, the owners and/or developers of this planned project, do they own or operate any businesses around the perimeter of the proposed project, as in either restaurants or retail?
What do you mean by perimeter?
Around Spring or Morris Street, do
I
any,
have knowledge that they do.
who does?
Georgia Martha's.
Okay, any other?
I can't think. What?
He owns the entire street. You can't say he
Okay, well, he's saying that they own the entire street. But in terms of, this project is an entire block, essentially.
I understand
But Georgia Martha's, I can't think of any others. But they also own the office. But that's not in the perimeter, which is what you're asking.
But then, and that, they...
Hold on.
Just so I'm clear, they also are behind the development proposal that we've been talking about tonight?
The owners of the Georgia Martha's? Yes.
Okay.
They own the property.
Okay.
So this is SJP. They're here as the developer. They'd be the ones, they built, buildings all over the state.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Yeah, can I go off the roundabout for a second? I appreciate the roundabout and the theory behind not missing the traffic lights, but I have two concerns. One is, we're building Morristown into a city with these high rises. When are we gonna stop? I've been here for 60 years, and this is not a small town feel anymore. I appreciate we need to bring businesses back. Headquarters Plaza to me was a nightmare. We did not bring industry into town. Morristown actually folded for a number of years after Headquarters Plaza was built. Just for the record.
Right.
So my concerns are, we're adding 1,000 new cars. I drive through this mess every day. I can't see an extra 1,000 cars and me sitting at the top of Speedo and trying to get up to the race. I really don't see how the roundabout's gonna help that. And then the other part is, it's too big. It's just too big.
So what I'm taking back, and what I think your elected officials are hearing, is size and scale. I will say, and I don't know that we need to get into numbers on the 1,000 car thing. That there's a bunch of cars that come in and I don't know if you ever tried to get out of there at lunchtime. It's not easy. So there's a lot of cars coming in and out of there every day. So it's about what's the net.
But it's not helping everybody else. I'm not worried about the people in the office when they're getting out. I'm worried about us.
Of course. And I think it's safe to say, the simple statement, I wouldn't have allowed it. I know that the mayor, others elected officials wouldn't have allowed it to get to this point if we're not, based on the modeling and the projections, which is the best technology we have, we don't leave this better than we found it, even with the development that's being proposed in terms of traffic.
So one more factor, I also work for Big Four Consulting Accounting, and we're hoteling now. We're not building big office spaces.
Right.
We're not leasing big office spaces. As a matter of fact, we're all downsizing, because we all work from home now.
Right, the one thing that I wanted to bring, I just want to,
Scale, think future too.
I think you bring up a really good point, and it's something that, I don't know why they didn't mention it, but maybe because it's specific to Big Four consulting firms, but when we first heard about this, it was 1,000 people that are stationed here,
Right.
but accountants and auditors and stuff, they're out in the field all the time. So it's maybe half or less than that being here on any given day. It's because they need their assigned spaces. Okay. Done.
Can we all listen to each other?
And of course, the developers, this is not your issue per se, unless there is a pushback as far as size and density. Deloitte is a very progressive firm, and a lot of progressive firms are also using shared space. It isn't the old world where everybody has their little carved out space. So there's maybe a way to have Deloitte here smaller footprint and to have not so much division. Somebody, first off, said this divides the towns. This feels like the new headquarters plaza. I mean, it divides. There's cement, and I'll tell you, this traffic that's being held through this roundabout, if every time somebody tries to push this, either one of two things are happening. Either that traffic's not gonna go if it's gonna respond to the pedestrians, or more probably, the pedestrians aren't gonna go. It's gonna be an island. It's gonna be an island, everybody's gonna come in their car, they're gonna flip around, and they're gonna go back, or they're gonna come in on the train, they're gonna walk, and they're gonna go back. And all this about helping all of our restaurants and retail is not gonna happen.
That's right.
Thank you. Ma'am.
Karen Ann Kurlander, Farragut Place. A couple of questions. First, are any of the traffic studies available to the public?
We will certainly put everything that you've seen on.
Just so we're all clear too, this is not a planning board meeting, okay? This is a pre-redevelopment meeting, right? And we've done, hold on, we've done more work on these studies than, I've done a lot of projects in this town. We've done more work than anyone at this point, okay? I'm not sugarcoating. This is more work than we've ever done on any project in this town. So, the studies, hold on, the studies will be coming. The studies will be coming. Phil just said we'll put whatever information we have, we'll make it available now. But this really, this is site plan stuff we're talking about now. Really, like the details of traffic studies, but we're doing it, listen, we're doing it early. Because we know it's important. We know people have some doubts about roundabouts and about how they work. We get it. So we're gonna provide the information.
Can I respond to that real quick?
It's my house. That's how my house is run.
You really are going towards my third question. But my second question is, what buildings are going to be torn down to build this roundabout? Is this 18th century building, that one with the second-story gallery, is that being torn down to build the roundabout?
No.
Fatso's not being removed?
Yes. Yeah, Fatties is not gonna be there.
Okay. My third question is, realistically, what point are we altogether in this process? I do a lot of work with the Summit Common Council, and in Summit, where they're doing a 10-acre redevelopment program on Broad Street West, this was before there were any developers brought in, before anything. They got public comments about what people wanted to see on those.
So I'm running the project in Summit. The reason for that is it's almost 100% public property. And there's no private owner, and there's no developer because they haven't made a deal. We're running the RFP right now. We're going to get the responses back next week.
There's a lot of private property.
There's very few.
We're doing it without any, where do you take it? What is eminent domain?
Correct.
But there is a fair amount.
Well, what about it's like 70% of the properties are public. All those parking lots, the post office, we're talking about another town right now, which is a little unfair to the people of Marstown, but.
But it's not in terms of, I get the feeling that this is essentially a done deed, and it's now just like, we're gonna listen to you,
No,
but
ma'am,
you're just
this is much more, there are people that have spent a lot more time and money than Summit has. There's people this is way more sophisticated a project than Summit's. Summit has not even begun this process yet. There's a redevelopment plan in place already here. All the stuff we did in Summit was just getting ready to this point.
Exactly, and now what they're putting together is something that takes in the input that they've been gathering for a year and a half from the people. Whereas now we have something that is like, this is what you people are getting, love it or lump it.
That is not the case at all.
But, so really then, this could go away?
Of course. These are so delicate. These projects are so delicate. That's why we try to treat them with care.
Phil, can I? Okay, I'd like to more directly answer your question. Where are we in the development process? We're at the very beginning. This developer introduced this project to the council 2 weeks ago as an introduction. This is a public meeting to gather your input so that they can take your comments and incorporate them into the project. This is not an attempt to shove anything down anyone's throat. There's been no deal made behind closed doors. This is not a done deal. There's no ribbon tied. There are elected officials in this room. Nobody has voted. So this is an attempt to get your feedback and to get your comments and incorporate it into the project before any decision is even contemplated. And that's why we're here, and that's what Morristown is known for. We're not shoving anything down your throats. If we were, we wouldn't be here. So we are looking for your comments, we're looking for your feedback, and we're looking to incorporate it into the project. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the time of everyone here. I'd like to make sure that we get the comments from everyone, so that we can hear everyone's voice. I know that there are different voices, I know that there are different points of interest, and I want to make sure that we're able to incorporate all of these. These people are here to listen to you, and that's why we're here. Can we, woman standing in the back?
Yes, Jackie Meow from YNY South Street. I just have one question. When you are doing this project, how do you direct the traffic on Morris Street? Because I think this project will go on for years, right?
So during the construction? Yeah.
During the construction, how do you direct the traffic when we already have very jammed traffic on Morris?
So we would likely work, and again, this is part of the process, listening, we likely would work with the town and the county, because obviously this is a county road, on a staging plan to limit the impacts of the area. The one benefit you have with the roundabout is that when you have the chance to start building the outside first, so it gives you almost a bypass, extra pavement to start, which gives you some extra room to build the inside of the roundabout. But again, as you said, and we heard where we are in the process, we would be working through that with the county and town to find out, are there detours, when could there be closures, could it be overnight, when's the work gonna get done? So that's obviously all things we're gonna do as part of this process.
Mark?
I would find it very helpful
I'll repeat it.
if you could present it. I would find it very helpful if you could present a view from Martin Luther King Avenue looking up at the project, because all the views are not giving us the
Okay. We could do that. That's okay. So I just, out of the people, who hasn't spoken already? I know you have. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I just want to give people that haven't had a chance yet. Ma'am, back there.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the retailers. I appreciate that there will be an attempt to relocate them and bring them back. I've seen revitalizations in town. Once the retailers move out, it's hard for them to move back. We have lots of empty storefronts around the green where my understanding is the landlord is looking for national retailers. I've been here for 20 years. They're still looking. So what is the plan to bring in retail and make this flourishing versus being a whole series of empty storefronts?
So I think I'd like to give you guys a chance to talk about both the relocation and the marketing strategy for the new space. It's like, if I don't get to see this stuff at least a little bit before, I don't want to, so give us a chance to let them prepare it in a more, detailed way, okay? So we'll be back probably before the council at some point, so, sir.
Is there, the nursing home in the back, is that going?
No.
That's staying?
Yes.
Is the J&R Plumbing building going?
No, it's not across the street. I think maybe for the realignment of Spring Place, it has to go. But I think the electrical supply.
Isn't that building connected to the one behind it, which I think is a bakery or something? Isn't that all one building?
There's two buildings there. One is like a siding clapboard building, and then there's a brick building, the electrical
So
supply.
the sided building is going?
I believe so, yes. To create the right of way for that street, for the new street with the signal, a little further down Spring.
Is there a way they could scale it down so it's not as big, or would that kill the deal with
Scale what now?
the whole size of the two buildings?
That's a comment that.
Yeah.
Could they scale it down so it may, because if you look at some of the new ones in town, it looks like they're just ready to fall onto the street, they're so close. Especially the one right next door here. I think it doesn't look good in my opinion.
Yeah.
Can they go back a little and lower? Would it kill the deal?
To this room.
I mean, as I said before, we went back, which causes it to get higher.
Is that a no?
So how, look, let us, I think let me just take it as a comment for right now, if that's okay?
That's okay.
And let me get you a better answer when we've had a chance. Linda?
Two things, it seems to me, keep coming up here, and it often happens with other projects. It's as if you're forced to deal with something in a vacuum. And what we really need to do is to think about the larger context. Because where the retailers are going to go may be a topic for the town to be thinking about. What is it going to do to help retailers in many places relocate? Because obviously, they need to have immediate relocation, otherwise they're going to go out of business. And this is happening all over the town. The second thing is the context. If the parking authority goes ahead and builds the parking deck it intends to do behind the diner there, and other projects are under consideration, why can't there be conversations among all of those property owners in the area to see whether we can't solve some of the problems that are being created indirectly by this one?
I will tell you that we are in active conversation with the parking authority about how that garage,
The Lot 10 garage will fit in the context of what we're, so we are comparing counts with them, we're talking to them all the time, and so we're gonna make sure that it works.
And the expansion of the MPAC
Just making the street one-way.
What about it?
as it relates to the parking on Pine Street parking.
That hasn't even been proposed yet, but I mean, that's not.
I mean, Phil could talk to
I
that.
mean, you're on King Street. I'm glad to hear that you know about it. I'm glad to hear that Mayo's doing their job.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I'll say that it's like in its very beginning stages, what Mayo's doing.
300 to 500 seat additional theater, which is just going to be unbelievable amount of parking nightmare in that area. So,
Right.
Yeah,
there we go.
Right.
The Mayo, yeah.
That's,
Right.
but that's really, again, in its very infantile stage, and that has not been decided either. So if they propose something, then we'll consider that on its merits at that point. I'd like to take another.
I mean, she's had her hand up, and then we're gonna go to you in the back, okay? Just put your arm, you're making my arm tired.
So, there are some elected officials
Hold on,
here
yeah.
in the audience, and I'm glad to see that.
Wait, I don't think anybody can hear you.
I said, I'm glad to see that there are some of our elected officials in the audience. There's no doubt that Deloitte is a very benevolent company and civic-minded, and they really do good things. I just saw that down at the medical center. My statement, question would be, is whoever's doing the negotiating, change is inevitable, could we get some fireworks in the deal? Like, we're the county seat, we have revolutionary history. And we have,
Is this July 4th,
do you think we can get Deloitte or Scotto to like sponsor fireworks for next thing?
SJP fireworks.
You give us the 8 stories, we'll put on the biggest fireworks display in the history of Morristown.
You had to do that. Man back there. Hold on. Great.
I think it's high time for sustainability question/comment and charge to you guys. In this proposal, what sustainability factors have been considered, like maybe solar panels or not entirely clean processes to allow water to get back into the groundwater? So what has already been considered, and this is part of the proposal? And I also just want to urge that in any future iterations that you take that into consideration.
So I'm just gonna say, I wanna let them get back to on the green building stuff. We take it very seriously as a town. We have a green building checklist. Our redevelopment plans and our code is based on LEED ND. So we haven't had that conversation because there's been, not to say that it's like the last thing we talk about, but there's a ton of other things that have come paramount. I want to give you a good answer. It's not one that I've really had a chance to work with them on. So we're going to be back. So let us talk about it then, please. Ma'am.
Nancy Helterman, I live in Morristown. I have a question about the parking structure that you're proposing to put behind it. How many stories is that?
4 structured.
Four?
So-
4 stories of parking structure.
Right.
So I assume you own the air rights to the space above it,
Yes.
like, is there any thought to possibly pushing the very tallest building back a little so that the shorter building becomes the tall building. In other words, not making it completely acute, moving it.
So I'll say, I know that we've had this discussion before, and others, and even online, and I do read the comments, by the way, online. So I know that they're not prepared to speak to that tonight, but it's a good idea, and I think that we're going to have to address it directly next time.
Okay.
Ma'am.
My name is Judy Stein-Lowenthal. I live in Morris Township.
Thank you.
Hi. My main concern is walking and the pedestrian traffic because it's not far from the high school. I have young teens. They walk a lot. I walk a lot around there because there's a music school, a popular ice cream shop. And I don't understand specifically how the beacons are going to work. Like, how will the cars see the lights if there are multiple lanes? I know walking across crosswalks in Morristown without traffic lights, you can take your life into your hands. I mean, people are hit legally walking through crosswalks. So how specifically does that work with the beacons?
I'm going to let Matt speak to that.
So I'm just waiting for a roundabout slide to get up here. So the way it works is you actually, because they're multi-lane approaches, the beacons are on each side when you're approaching. So there's one on to the right of the right lane and one to the left of the left lane. When you press a button, they flash, so it's basically next to you when you start walking across the street. There are studies, significant studies, that show that driver compliance with pedestrians in crosswalks is much, much higher at roundabouts than at unsignalized intersections. Because at unsignalized intersections, cars are traveling usually at 30, 40 miles an hour. They're not expecting for the pedestrian. Here, you're traveling, like I said, at max. The way it's designed, the way it deflects you, it basically slows you down to about 15 miles an hour, which when you look at urban studies, that's what most urban centers want you to bring your speeds from 25 to 20 to 15 because it reduces the opportunity for a collision. The other benefit you have here, as opposed to unsignalized intersections or signalized intersections, when you make a turn at this, if you're walking across Morris today, you basically have cars making a left turn into you. So when you're the pedestrian, you're actually not in front of the driver, you're coming out of the side of the driver's eye. When you're at a roundabout, you actually have a much better visibility when you approach a pedestrian because they're basically right in your cone of vision. So you don't have someone sneaking out from the side of you. So again, from a pedestrian standpoint, I'd be happy to discuss this at future meetings, but it's something that we've looked at carefully in terms of how the design this roundabout to encourage pedestrians.
Morristown.